you. The fact that there were 21 people recommended by that special grand jury but were not indicted, does that mean that Fani Willis didn't actually present evidence concerning those 21?
You know, it's difficult to know that, Katie. I think there are a number of reasons that she could have made this ultimate decision. It may be that the grand jury chose not to indict, that she sought indictments against some or all of them, and the grand jury disagreed with that. It is also possible that she was exercising some prosecutorial discretion. You know, just because you can indict someone based on probable cause doesn't always mean that a prosecutor should indict. And that's where a prosecutor really earns their chops, spending some time analyzing the evidence and the law and deciding whether it's worth the candle to indict that person. So it may be, with regard to some of these people, she thought the evidence was not sufficient to secure a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. It may be that she thought there were legal defenses that would just muck things up, you know, with regard to these senators. It could be that they would try to rely on the speech or debate clause to slow things down. That may have been a reason. Or, interestingly, Katie, I think one thing that intrigues me is some of these may be cooperating. There are unindicted co-conspirators in the indictment. So from the time in January when they issued their report, or I guess it was December when they issued their report, until she filed that indictment in August, there was a lot of activity happening, a lot of investigation. And it seems quite possible to me that she secured the cooperation of at least some of those fake electors, if not any others.
Yeah, Barb, and to that point, we know that at least 8 of the fake electors, there were 16 of them in Georgia, received immunity deals, ergo the reason why we didn't see them as co-defendants in that indictment that came out. The state has indicated they have 150 witnesses. I opined yesterday that we certainly are seeing some of those witnesses in this special grand jury report in terms of those names. Do they appear voluntarily when this case goes to trial? October 23rd, Barb, Kenneth Chesebro, Sidney Powell, they're going to go to trial. These witnesses, somebody like Lindsey Graham, for example, would he appear pursuant to a subpoena? Would he be compelled to appear? Like, what would happen to have him testify in a case against somebody like Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell?
Yes, he may want to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. I mean, the fact that this special grand jury recommended that he be indicted does indicate that he has some criminal exposure here. And so it could be that his lawyer requests immunity for him to testify. If that is not received, then he may refuse to testify. And then when you've got these 2 different cases pending, the federal case and the state case, you have to worry about, even if Fani Willis isn't going to charge you, there's a possibility you could be charged federally. And so because of that exposure, it may be that some of these witnesses demand immunity before they agree to testify and waive their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination.
So in other words, it may not all be done yet, right? So Barbara McQuade, because I'm sure it's not done yet, I appreciate your time today, and we'll have you back so we can break it all down. Thanks for being here.